In the final century before Christ, Rome saw the rise of many monumental figures in history. From Julius Caesar to his nephew Augustus to the great orator Cicero. Amongst this fray of titans, other important characters can get lost. Cato the Younger is one of these names whose historical significance can often be underappreciated. This video will attempt to rectify this. The name Cato will be familiar to both Roman history buffs and libertarians alike. The libertarian think tank Cato Institute was named after Cato's letters, which was written in the early 1700s by John Trenchard and Thomas Gordon, who got the name from Cato the Younger. Cato was born Marcus Porcius Cato of Utica in 95 BC. All throughout his life, he had a strong conservative disposition, often lamenting the degradation of the morals of Rome and trying to maintain the traditions of old. Though he has become a libertarian hero, he really was more of a conservative because he certainly was not afraid to use the state when he felt it was necessary. Cato was the living embodiment of Rome, with his traditional values, old-style dress, and interesting quirks, including the fact that he wouldn't ride a horse for long distances, preferring to walk. He also was a great speaker, even getting praised by Cicero for his oratory skills. During his quaestorship, he tried to bring an end to political bribery, reform the state treasury, pay state creditors, and enforce payment from debtors. His successes in office won him many supporters, but also made him some enemies as well. Because of his traditional view of how the Senate should function, he was skeptical of anyone that tried to take too much power. Dr. Fred K. Dragula writes that Cato tenaciously opposed those men who sought individual advancement at the expense of the senatorial elite, which meant working to reinforce the preeminence of that elite by opposing the ambitions of men like Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, Marcus Licinius Crassus, and most famously, Julius Caesar. This strong moral sensibility would put Cato against Caesar for the rest of his life. He even tried to filibuster Caesar's first consulship to no avail. This didn't stop Cato from rejecting almost every bill that Caesar tried to put through. It's likely that Cato sensed a thirst for power in Caesar, and he perhaps even felt a tinge of jealousy over Caesar's growing popularity. Cato was one of the few who derided Caesar's successes in Gaul, calling them atrocities, which was a hard thing to convince a patriotic populace of. Eventually, the words of Cato began to turn the Senate against Caesar. This sort of backfired when Caesar tried to compromise to avert a civil war, and no compromise came to be. Cato forever felt some responsibility for the lives lost during the war. Cato was assigned to Italy during the Civil War, but never faced Caesar head-on. He ended up fleeing and helping some others escape the wrath of Caesar's men. This all came to an end when Cato died by his own hand. The romanticized writings of Cicero, Seneca, and Plutarch immortalized Cato in history. Again quoting Dr. Fred K. Dragula. This idealization of Cato was handed down to later writers, who further transformed the man into a legend. In particular, those writers and thinkers who lived under Rome's moral, tyrannical emperors envisioned Cato as a stoic guru and as a champion of the ideals of the now lost republic. Those men saw and described Cato as representing the ideal of libertas, and as setting an example of how one could escape injustice through suicide. Cato was forever captured as the man that was so committed to liberty, he took his own life rather than live under tyranny.